Monday, everybody. Welcome back to the Couchside Judges. I'm Scott Fontana. Follow me on Twitter at Scott_Fontana.
And I'm Dan Urban. You can follow me at the Dan Urban, the podcast at Couchside Judges. And you can subscribe on YouTube and Apple and Spotify.
There are other places too, but we're not going to name them all. Sorry.
And as always, we're talking MMA judging, so read that criteria.
Dan, you know this is coming. You know what's coming for you.
I do.
I don't know if everybody else does. I think
don't
some people probably might have an idea, but
Yeah.
you know what's coming for you. You're gonna have to take your lumps on this one here. Do you know what you messed up?
Oh.
Do you know what you did?
Well, you're talking about something completely different, so I was ready.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I can tell you this much: you messed up, dude. You completely messed up. Tell the listeners why.
Well, I wasn't watching live most of the night, and then I got home for the final two fights.
For UFC 301.
For UFC 301. In between the co-main and the main, I checked all the scorecards, and I was like, oh my God, we're perfect. And then after the first round of the main, I text Scott 2 emojis of the fingers crossed. And what do you know, that round 2 is the only one we have.
And what did I say to you when you sent me those 2 emojis? I'm gonna stop you. I'll tell you. The F, dude, I was purposefully quiet. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to jinx it for you.
Yeah.
Because you've gotten on me before for saying stuff. And
I know.
And it happened. And you've been wanting so badly for the perfect event. And it was within grasp. And then the moment you said something, what happened?
Well, Dave Torelli, I mean, you could have...
Oh, you put this on Dave Torelli.
Could have went the other way.
Nope, it's all on you. Dave only did it because you did it. He knew... He gets my texts.
Oh, boy. I mean,
I'm just saying.
It's on me.
And not only is it on you, you knew. Like, before that round was over, you're like, yeah, this is a split. You already knew it was a split.
I know.
You knew it.
I did. Come on.
Just an epic fail on the part of Daniel Urban.
I gotta be better. No, I don't know. Do we tell them the other thing or no? Because we got countdown. Like
do we do it? Is this what you want to do?
I mean, I guess we have to.
All right. Let's let the cat out of the bag here. There's some big news regarding our program, the Couchside Judges MMA podcast. I have had it up to here with Dan Urban. I'm sick of his stuff, and I'm quitting. All right, that's not entirely true. But, Dan, what's the reason?
Yeah, well, the show is coming. It's going on an extended hiatus.
We'll call it extended hiatus. But yeah, so as a result of a wonderful opportunity for my compatriot here, my partner, my buddy, my good time friend, he will have to leave this program, which would leave it in just my hands. And frankly, I don't have it in me. I don't have it in me to do it without you, bud.
Oh, all right. That's nice.
Yeah. So what this means is that we will be in our final stretch over these next few episodes. I believe our targeted final episode will be on, what was it? The May 20th? 20th? Yeah. Okay. May 20th. So we've got this one here you're listening to, which we'll eventually get to the things and the real happenings of UFC 301 and all that. We'll get to that in a moment. But we'll have this episode, we have next week's episode, and then we have our final episode.
Yeah.
But again, MMA retirements, I mean, Sean Sheehan knows they don't last.
Here's a spoiler for the final episode. One of the rounds we're going to be talking about will be an Angela Hill fight.
That's true. Actually, we already conferred with the future, which is to say we looked at the bout order and we saw Angela Hill's name on there, so we know that there will be a split decision. So my condolences to the poor judges who were assigned to that one, who will definitely be under scrutiny. Or at least one of you. Unless you side with her, then she won't be that mad.
She won't be terribly upset,
no. Yeah, so that's the unfortunate news here. I'm personally very excited for what Dan has to come, and there's a lot of judges who can tell you why you can't trust them. It never makes it. Anyway, we'll table that aside. That's the big thing off the plate now. Let's get over to the actual happenings of UFC 301, Dan. Starting with the main event, Alexandre Pantoja defends his flyweight title. First time he gets to fight in Brazil. First time he gets in as a UFC fighter, I should clarify.
Yeah.
First time fighting in Rio, his hometown, in more than a decade. Big opportunity for him, and he comes through. So with Steve Erceg having been put away and pushed aside, in a competitive matchup, right? Let's say he gets a fresh challenger next, right? Let's say he doesn't get the guy you want, Brandon Royval. Let's say it's not him next. If it's a fresh challenger, a new opponent, who should Pantoja face
I mean,
next?
there's only one person you can pick.
I disagree, actually, but I'm curious who you say.
On a fresh, never fought him yet,
Mm-hmm.
is Mikhaev.
That's not the only one.
Well, I mean, where are you going to go?
Amir Albazi.
He's got a neck injury.
Yeah, I'm saying, well, who knows when he's going to come back?
So, considering this guy has neck injury,
Yeah, you never know.
you can only go Mikhaev.
Can I just remind you that Tito Ortiz fought with a cracked skull?
Spice.
These things don't, it's MMA. I mean, you can come back pretty quick.
There's a video I got to show you. Speaking of Tito Ortiz.
Is it the microphone?
The microphone in the head.
Yeah. Even Dana White commented on it. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
see
yeah,
Dana's-
yeah. Dana replied to it. And this was roughly around the time that Jeff Ross was referring to him as the Michael Vick of fighting or something
Oh,
like that.
jeez.
Yeah, he made a comparison to him. And he was also saying that this was at the Tom Brady roast.
Yeah.
Jeff Ross. I almost said Jim Ross. Jeff Ross. Good old JR. Jeff Ross asked why he was sitting there with the cast of Queer Eye because Sean O'Malley was sitting next to him.
Oh, wow.
that was pretty good. That was pretty good. But anyway, back over to Pantoja and again, Albazi, yes, obviously health permitting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pantoja said, I think he sounds like he probably wants to take a little bit more of a break. I don't know what that means.
Well, he rushed this because he wanted to fight in Brazil.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that means he'll be back in the fall, and who knows when Albazi is actually going to be available. Maybe he is back then.
Well, if he's back, then I would go with him.
Okay. And then if not, yes, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Mokaev is the one who makes the most sense. So we'll see. We'll see if Mokaev wants to stay out that long, depending on when he comes back, right? It's not that long a time, but, he's young and likes to fight, so we'll see. But I'm with you. It should be Albazi. If not him, then Mokaev is absolutely the guy.
Yes.
And I don't know who else there could conceivably be that we would be okay with.
Under, it has to be a fresh opponent.
Yes.
That,
the qualifier is that, in fact, we do mean a fresh opponent and not Brandon Royval, who I just don't think is going to get a shot this year. I think he's probably got to fight one more time.
Okay.
Who hasn't Royval? Has Royval? No, actually, Royval did already beat Cara France. No, he definitely did.
Well, yeah, when he was supposed to fight Albazi in February.
Right. But instead he beat Brandon Moreno, who's stepped away now for, it looks like, a period of time, too. Possibly not as long as the Couchside Judges.
He beat Cara France almost 4 or 5 years ago.
I think that was his debut in the UFC, or one of his first fights, right? It was first or second fight?
It was his second fight, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds right. Hey, maybe him versus Erceg. That'd be fun.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Speaking of Erceg, how did he fare relative to what you expected out of him in this one?
I expected good things from him. I mean, a lot more than what Pantoja expected.
Did you? I don't know if that's true.
We're not going to do this again. This was a hand-picked opponent.
Look,
on short notice.
The show has no future. I can go arguing with you all you want.
Just so he could fight in Rio. So, or were they in Rio?
This was Rio.
Yeah. So I'll leave it at that. Steve Erceg, he's a tough kid.
But did he exceed your expectations, or did he meet them?
I exceeded a little bit. Yeah.
I think it was a bit of a surprise that he was able to go out there and take 2 rounds from the champion. One being the unfortunate split, thanks to you.
Yes, thanks to me.
Entirely your fault. But the thing with Pantoja is
he looks exhausted starting the rounds.
He
after
always
the first
looks just dead tired. But he goes out there and he still manages to win late rounds. His was 1-3-5.
Yeah,
those are his rounds.
I just don't get why he looks so tired all the time.
Mm-hmm. Some people just don't wear it very well, I guess. And it doesn't matter because he's still able to go out and do it. It's not even like his production really slows dramatically. Sometimes it slows a little bit, but it's not like he's slogging it and just holding on for dear life in that final round. He looks fine, It was a fine fight. I didn't think it was amazing. I wrote a column that more or less if the flyweights wanted to be able to make a case for being must-see pay-per-view main events, this didn't necessarily do that.
I thought it was a pretty good fight.
It was fine, but it didn't set the world on fire. It didn't win fight of the night, which is kind of a benchmark for flyweight
Yeah.
title fights, or at least performance if you've gotten a finish, right?
I mean, people thought Erceg won the thing.
Some people did. I
That was
don't quite see that. I don't, I guess it's not the craziest card to be able to turn in. This was a reasonably competitive fight, but I don't really go with that.
I struggle to find 3 rounds for Erceg.
I haven't sat back and watched every round to score. To be fair, because I was watching the main event, but not to score. I actually didn't put any card out there during the main event. But I obviously went back and watched round 2 to score.
Yeah.
I mostly just kind of took the fight in because I was kind of trying to decide, okay, is this how entertaining is this fight, rather than like how the fight is going because of my column, like I wrote. But at any rate, I would say he definitely exceeded my expectations. I thought he had, some skill for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he was a little bit up jumped in the opportunity didn't mean he wasn't, a worthy to be fighting in this class here. He obviously hadn't faced anyone remotely at that level. Even I think I said previously, Alex Perez, when he fought him, Perez was coming off of a long layoff. It's hard to really gauge that as like, how good is this guy as a fighter? But he looks good out there. I think he's absolutely now in that mix. He should be fighting some of these upper level guys. He's not going down. He should honestly get that's why I think honestly a decent matchup might be him and Brandon Royval.
Yeah,
they're both big flyweights too.
I like it.
That's kind of interesting about it too, because Erceg, one of the keys that I think he's got is he does have some size, but he won't necessarily have an edge there with Royval.
Although I wonder if he has that much of a future at flyweight. They said this was his toughest cut to 125.
Yeah, they did, but just because it was tough doesn't mean it was like deadly,
Well, I mean, does it get easier? I don't know.
Maybe he just did it poorly. I don't know. He fought 2 months ago. He didn't really get to. I think they mentioned in the broadcast too that he returned to Perth, and it was like, all right, now you get right back into it. It's like everything's thrown off a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, the extra pound for the championship fight.
That's the other part.
Is tough too.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I thought about that too. I was like, they don't mention that enough. That it's like you're coming down, and it's like, okay, it's one thing of the stress to have to make the weight, but then the other thing that's like, not only do you have to make the weight, you got to make the real weight. Not the extended weight. And if you miss, you do not get that opportunity. There's a lot of pressure to do that.
So it's so weird how weigh-ins are. It's like, yeah, we can weigh in 36 hours before you fight. We don't care what you weigh when you actually fight. We're gonna give you an extra pound allowance just in case the scales might be off. But if you're fighting for the belt and it's the most important fight of your life, the scales could be off, but you better make that. It better stay the right way.
It is a ludicrous scenario. But it is the norm in this sport, which is appropriate because this sport is crazy. Other than the main event, I think probably the thing most people came away from, probably even more so than the main event, talking about was Jose Aldo.
Yeah.
And, his return after... I love that it was like, oh yeah, he's coming back from retirement. In the meantime, he had boxed. He had been put in the UFC Hall of Fame. But as Aaron Bronstetter pointed out, Vince Pichel, who was on the undercard, had a longer gap between fights than Jose Aldo, and he did not retire. And he's also 4 years older than Jose Aldo. So it's like, he's 37. It's not even like he's that old, So crazy. But now we have this narrative is starting to grow. That's like, should Jose Aldo skip the line and get the bantamweight title shot, even though he lost to Merab, who Merab looks like he should be next. And everyone's like, yeah, forget about that. Just give it to Jose Aldo. No, 100% no. And I love Jose Aldo as a fighter. I think he absolutely, generally, you could skip him in line. I think there are times where I would have done it, even along the way, and they just decided not to do it. That was on them. They could have done it at other times, and they felt like not doing it. So that's on them. But here... no, you can't do it. You can't skip him over the guy who beat him.
No.
Who's been fighting still. Who absolutely already got skipped over the last time.
Give us what we deserve. Aldo and Cruz.
Aldo and Cruz has to happen. I don't know what they need to do to get that fight to happen. Apparently, when I spoke to Aldo, he said that he was told it was something with Cruz's coach. I don't know. There was something there. But then I believe it was the Anakin Florian podcast had pointed out that... John Anik had spoken to Cruz, of course, his broadcast partner and compatriot, and said that he had not been approached or something to that. I believe that was something to that effect. So who knows who's saying what? I don't think Dominic Cruz is the type to make something up. I doubt Aldo's the type to have made something up either. Probably just got miscommunicated or whatever. But anyway, why aren't we doing this?
Yeah. Do that for us.
Do it for everyone. Do it for the world. We need it.
I mean, I saw Cheeto called him out. I mean, if they actually end up doing that fight and Aldo beats Cheeto, maybe we start talking.
I don't even
a little bit.
I don't even want that. I really just wanted to be
Cruz.
Yeah,
just Aldo Cruz.
And frankly, I am okay. I would actually accept him fighting Merab fighting for the belt, and then after that, without Aldo even fighting again, he gets the next shot. I'm okay with it because realistically, when Aldo went away, he lost to Merab. But he was still like number 2 or 3. So like he's really just sitting right behind Merab.
I know, but
I'm okay with that. I know it's clocked, but for a legend like him, I can do that.
Peter Yan put a beating on.
That was years ago now. We're at 4 years,
dude. I get
it,
but Peter Yan's coming back up.
That was like 7,000 episodes of the Couchside Judges MMA podcast ago. I'm good with it. I don't mind it. Peter Yan lost like 4 fights. Whatever.
I'd also be down to watch him fight Cejudo. Might be one Cejudo actually gets excited for.
That would be fun, actually. I do like the idea of that. I want Aldo to fight like interesting fights for like against like big nothing against Marlon Vera, but like there's a difference between Aldo fighting Marlon Vera and like making an interesting sort of legacy fight and him fighting Henry Cejudo for an interesting sort of legacy fight because we've got champion versus former 2 division champion, as opposed to champion versus. Wait, didn't they fight even? Am I mistaken?
Cejudo and Aldo fought?
No.
Oh.
Did Aldo fight Marlon Vera?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would be.
Oh, that's right. What the heck are we talking about him for?
Because he called him out.
Oh no, I don't like that.
Oh, okay.
No,
right.
Not about it. He had his chance. No, you missed. Come at the King of Rio. You best not miss. That's all I have to say about that. We do have some, before we get to the one contested round we have, again, all Dan's fault, not Dave Torelli. We do have some adventures in officiating and doctoring.
Yeah.
So let's start with at least we're going to sandwich the doctoring around some officiating, starting with, on the main card, Michel Pereira, an otherwise electrifying victory in Brazil, 54 seconds, finishes Ihor Potieria. Which is crazy because wasn't that long ago that Pereira was fighting at 170 and Potieria was fighting at 205, and then they just meet at the middle after being 35 pounds apart, and the little guy wins by quote unquote, wins by spectacular finish inside a minute. Crazy in and of itself. But this one, there was a little bit of doubt that it was going to go down and as an official submission victory for Pereira, because of that backflip that he did, which was crazy in and of itself.
Yes.
But then you see the leg hits either Poteria's shoulder or maybe somewhere on like his cheek or part of his head or something like that. It sure looked like it didn't not touch the head, correct?
I mean, it sure may have touched it. So,
but they were trying to review that, of course. So like Mike Beltran apparently was getting involved in all this and trying to help sort through it, right? I don't know if he was the replay official or if there was someone else who was a replay official, but I know John Anik had mentioned Mike Beltran being involved in kind of this whole thing. Ultimately, they did decide not to penalize it and make it either a no contest or a DQ or whatever. But yeah, the possibility of it being a knee to the grounded opponent, right? To the head of a grounded opponent. Did you see it? You obviously didn't seem to see it that way.
But it isn't. It isn't a knee to the grounded opponent.
It sort of was. It sort of looked like it could have been. Whether it did or not, it's really hard to say. It's hard to take it away.
Just because the leg may have touched his head. I mean, it's not a knee.
But if it rocked him, yeah.
He's doing a backflip. I mean, there's plenty of times guys' legs hit the head in grappling scenarios. They're not kicking each other.
Sure.
It's like,
but there's not a lot of scenarios where the guy backflips and then his leg kind of slams into like that area. I don't know. Again, I don't even know if it really connected. It's hard to say, which I think is part of why you just can't take it away from him, right?
Right, but there's no rule about the leg can't slam into. I mean, it's not a kick. Like that's very vague. Or actually, in that sense, it's not vague. It's kind of very explicit. You can't kick the head of a downed opponent. That's not a kick.
I don't know if you can just throw it into that gray area just because of the way it happened. You know, like if he landed a backflip and then his shin connected straight on the noggin, are you still okay with it?
I mean, it's not a kick.
I don't know if that's how it would get officiated.
But it's not a kick. This is the problem we have with the criteria. This is where it is.
What's the official language? Because I don't have it in front of me. Because we usually aren't as scrutinous of the, let's say, the officiating rules, which we did have to learn in past couple of years ago, right? But you know, we're more judging centric.
Yes, I gotta find it from you.
Yeah. But anyway, I feel like the spirit of the rule isn't such that like the shin. I mean, you can kick and land with your shin, dude. That's probably a good place to land, realistically.
What do you mean?
If the shin is what connects,
yes,
or the knee is what connects, it doesn't matter the nature of the land. If it's landed to a high degree, it shouldn't make much of a difference.
But it should make a difference if the language says you cannot kick, because that's not a kick.
Yeah, well, I guess again we still have to get that language up. I don't know. In whatever the language says, I'll say this, independent of what the language actually does say. In the spirit of that rule, I think they just don't want you landing with the leg to the head of an opponent, no matter how it occurs. Now, there's incidental brushing, like you're saying, and then there's backflipping and like your legs swinging onto their head. It's a little different.
I'm not disagreeing.
All right,
that's different. I'm just saying that I think he'd have a strong case.
You mean if it was like appealed or something?
Yeah, I think he would.
No one listens to appeals.
No one. Clearly, yes.
Yeah,
but I still think he'd have a very strong case.
All right. I don't necessarily think so.
Kneeing and or kicking the head of a grounded opponent. A grounded opponent is defined as any part of the body other than the sole.
Right. I mean, that's not
of the feet
part.
Touching the fighting area floor.
I mean, we're not debating whether the person was grounded. That's not what's at stake here.
At this time, that's the whole defining what a grounded opponent fighter is. Then it says, at this time, kicks or knees to the head will not be allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it falls under this. Stomping of a grounded opponent.
It could probably come close to that, too.
Stomping is considered any type of striking action with the feet where the fighter lifts their leg up, bending their leg at the knee and initiating a striking action with the bottom of their foot or heel.
Actually, I would say no. Yeah, no, it's definitely not that one.
Yeah, maybe
it's probably more closer to the other one, to be frank. I mean, we're not going to really solve this
but
one
no,
tonight,
I actually think he has done full backflips where he gets around a lot further and lands on them with the heel. So that would be stomps in the past with Pereira's backflip.
I mean, quite possibly.
Attack.
But I mean, realistically, imagine he knocks him out with that strike. What are the officials supposed to do there? I imagine that's not going to fly.
I would say probably no contest.
I think no contest too. I wouldn't put it under DQ. It's too incidental for it to be like classified that way. Obviously, we're now going into a little more of a hypothetical realm rather than a.
Don't do that. It has to be out. Thank you, though.
I was I pushed in the plug to Dan's computer. I was thinking, oh no, it's gonna die. So I'm like, help him out.
No, it flashes. It like the connector's off. So I gotta like finagle it.
Oh
yeah.
Sounds like you need a new laptop.
I just need a new connector.
Yeah.
This is a secondary market charger too, so that could be
maybe that's part of the issue. Obviously, we've now beaten this into the ground. I don't know that we're gonna solve it tonight. But I'm curious if any officials listening have some insight into how something like this would be officiated, right? Is it really, if let's say it does land a little more squarely on the head, even if it's otherwise this exact same situation, you know, would you be able to call this a kick? Would it end up being illegal? Could you keep it legal? I don't know. My thinking is it probably wouldn't be, but I'm curious if anyone could reach out and let us know. We'd love to know. And you got to do it quick because our show's ending.
You can still reach out. We still want the info.
No. We're closed. Never going to talk to you again. All right, that's not true. At any rate, let's move on to the Adventures of Doctoring before we get back over to officiating once more. Jack Shore lost his fight to Joe Anderson Brito right before the pay-per-view portion of the program began. But it was a weird one. Number one, because it was stopped due to ostensibly a cut on the leg from leg kicks, which opened up on its own because of the leg kicks, which happens, but very rarely. I think it's the first one I remember in the UFC. I don't think it is the first one, but it's like the first one that really stands out in my head.
It was like, no, we've seen it before.
No,
We've
I'm
seen
sure.
the shin bleed.
I'm sure we have.
But
like to this degree, even Anik and all of them were like, they would see it and they were like, ugh, audibly grossed out.
Okay, so he kicks him, splits his shin open, but there's not that much blood yet.
Not yet.
And it's not until
it like scrapes against the cage, right? Is that what
Brito starts punching it.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like,
which is smart.
There's just blood everywhere.
That's a very smart thing to do. If you see a cut, just do something to it. Make it awful.
So
that's what you should do.
That prompted the referee to stop it and call the doctor.
Brought in the doctor, and it looked like what they were doing, as I understand it now, is that and I think they even said it on the broadcast, that they were checking for a fracture, and it seems that they identified one, and that was essentially what caused the stoppage. You saw them kind of like almost sticking a finger in there, like. Yeah. Like trying to look for gold or something, and but then they were also checking like outside of the cut along certain areas and stuff, and I think they were probably feeling some form of a fracture or something along. I don't know. I'm not a doctor either. But anyway, it was one of those things that like everyone was kind of like, oh, how can you stop it for that? Like there was some people like confused about that, but like realistically, again, if they did identify a fracture,
we don't need another Weidman.
You stop it.
Yeah.
End of story. Yeah, exactly. You do not need another Weidman. This is someone's leg, that will affect them the rest of their life.
I mean, it wasn't getting better for Jack Shore.
No, it really wasn't. So I'm inclined to think that kind of the whole thing was handled pretty well.
And that leg was beat. I mean, it was swelling to the point of that it kind of basically exploded. Yeah, it needed to relieve the pressure.
It was pretty. I don't know if that's exactly what happened. I know they were saying that on the broadcast too. I couldn't tell, but
his leg was battered.
Oh, it was terrible. Who knows? Maybe it was better that it just happened anyway.
That's like when you watch the fight and their eyes are super swollen. They're like, oh, they're just putting the end swell on. It's like, stick a pin in it and see what happens.
I don't know if that's what happens.
I don't think it happens, but I expect it to happen.
Like because we saw Rocky.
Yes.
Is that why?
Cut him.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
I think I heard from a doctor one time that's like, yeah, that's not right.
But I mean, it would be cool if that is right.
I see. So you wish we lived in that world where medical science worked differently.
Like you could just squeeze it out and reduce the swelling.
I don't know if that's a good idea either, dude.
But it's satisfying.
Well, I mean, my understanding is the reason that we have stuff like that swell up around, especially if something is like bruised or broken, is so that it protects it from further damage, right?
Yeah, but also you have a histamine response that can kill people.
Yeah.
For certain allergies. So it may not be the best thing of always to have all these defense things going off.
Yeah, but maybe some of them are doing their job.
At some time, yeah. Goes both ways.
Anyway, I don't think either of us disagrees with the way this was handled. So I think anybody who's getting frustrated, it's like, yo, you're just not a doctor. Why don't you be patient? just chill a while.
Sorry, that leg of your probably lost.
I know. Yeah, exactly right.
It was gonna lose anyway.
I get your pun there. The leg of your parlay. Well done, sir. Last adventure in officiating. We're back over to the officiating side. This was on the earlier portion of the card. Mektabek Oralbai picked up the win over Elvis Brenner, who, if I recall, is the lineal 165-pound super lightweight champion.
Okay.
Remember he won that super lightweight fight. So yeah, I'll consider him the lineal champion of that. Obviously, that title's not on the line. This was at lightweight, so he still retains his belt, fictional belt. But Oralbai, competitive fight, really competitive, especially for a 30-27 unanimous that he picked up. Very competitive. Actually, it wasn't 30-26. Excuse me, it was 29-27 because of exactly what we're talking about here.
Listen,
what?
Round 3, he doesn't drop him. I think we got potential for draw.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Except he drops him
at the 2 seconds left in the round,
and it was a good drop too. So, it wasn't just like he might have like slipped or something like that. It's like he got him, he tagged him. It was like, yo, that flips it. I was good with it. Everybody else was good with it. The judges were good with it. Nobody was really complaining, right? But you're right. Jaw was very much on the table because Oralbai, in a fight he was otherwise winning very handily. Well, like I said, not handily, but was going to win on the cards. Grabs the fence to prevent a takedown. It was not the first time during the fight that he was grabbing the fence. This was clearly something he was doing and was warned about. The official earlier on in the first round, absolutely, I saw it.
I watched the whole fight. I don't recall any him of him grabbing a fence.
Oh, he definitely did it. 100%. I was watching him. I actually, before that even happened, before this whole like mess, when I was watching live, I'm like, yo, he's grabbing the fence.
Yeah, I didn't see
Yeah.
it at all. So
In the first round, I remembered it. I didn't go back and watch the fight in totality, but I remember it being a case. It wasn't just like he did it one time and that was it. So I didn't mind at all that he had a point taken in this scenario. I would like to see more of it. I forget who the official was. Do you remember the referee's name? I can look it up, but yeah, I'm okay with it, realistically.
Well, it changes things because honestly, I watched the fight. I didn't see him get warned or do it in the first round. So
the fight wasn't stopped for a warning. It's not like he pulled him over and said, "All right, I'm giving you a warning
well, no,
here."
Obviously,
but
yeah. I mean, he even do that to take the point, which is the part that's the part I love most about this, is he just let them continue fighting.
Mm-hmm.
The fence grab didn't affect anything, I don't think. They ended up in the same position.
Yeah, they kind of did. I guess that's part of that's a fair case as to why it's like maybe they didn't need to do it.
So I mean, if he actually was warned, then yeah, I don't mind the point take. But if he wasn't warned and in that situation where it didn't affect it, I would be like, quick trigger. But I would also be like, can't grab the fence.
The referee, yeah, the referee on this one was Fernando Portela, by the way. Yeah, again, sole arbiter, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what his job is, figure out what to do. And if he didn't like that it was happening, that I saw just one time. That doesn't mean it was the only time, but it sure seems like, hey, I'm gonna see if I can get away with this.
All right.
And I think a lot of fighters think like that because realistically they know they have 7 to 8 fouls before they actually get a warning, and then they have 7 or 8 fouls before they get a second warning or a harsh warning, and then they get to do it again.
Yeah.
Because that's the nature of it. But when we have refs that will check it like this, hey, it's a reminder. Maybe don't do that. Either way, worked out for him. What?
That's how all points should be taken.
What? How?
Just on the fly.
Oh.
When taken. Let them continue going.
I guess.
Unless you get poked in the eye or low blow. Then you got to stop the action.
The only thing I wondered about that whole scenario was, do you think he made it clear enough to oral by that he had lost a point, or do you think it was more communicated to the officials? Because it didn't look like he made it clear, like, you lost a point, 1 point. Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe I'm reading too much into that. Maybe I'm being too sensitive there. But you definitely should, whether he did that or not. The protocol ought to be making it clear enough to the fighter who committed the foul. You did the foul. Don't do it again. So that way he doesn't do it again.
Okay.
But maybe it just seemed that way on television, that it wasn't as well communicated, or maybe I'm again just reading too much into it. So nonetheless, I feel the way I feel. And that was it for the Adventures of Officiating. We actually have a really impressive unanimity report. 25 out of 26 unanimous rounds, sir. 96.2%. This has got to be one of the best UFC numbered event unanimity rates that we have ever seen. Probably even before we did the show.
It's got to be the best.
It's probably the best on record, at least. So let's say my records go back to now late 2016.
I mean, especially this many rounds.
Yeah, there was. I mean, most of these fights went the distance, including a main event. And honestly, a lot of these were tough. I thought Brenner and Orlby was a difficult fight to judge.
That third round,
the third round,
yeah.
I mean, there were some rounds that were like clear-ish, but throughout the card, as there always are. But I think you have to really hand it to the officials on this one for getting on the same page to such a degree they were. And I really want to shout out all of the officials by name here. So just to name check them all. Rafael Ferreira, Ben Cartledge, David Lethaby, Fabio Alves, Sal D'Amato, and Dave Torelli. That was your 6 judges who handled the whole thing. They did a fantastic job collectively, and I think they deserve praise for that.
Nice work.
Mm-hmm. And I'm even letting one of the judges off the hook for the one round because it's entirely your fault.
It is true.
Well, let's get to that round. This is not a 9-8 split, and there were no 9-8 splits. We are talking purely about the winner of the second round between Alexandre Pantoja and Steve Erceg, which was otherwise a 48-47 2 times, and then the 49-46 turned in by Judge Torelli. Dan, work through your shame. What happened in the round?
I mean, well, for the first 3.5 minutes, the round is pretty clearly a Pantoja round. I mean, Erceg had very little offense to this point, but then he lands an elbow and a good solid combo countering while Pantoja's rushing forward, And in this next minute is when Erceg takes the round for me. He lands a couple of good shots, another elbow. Pantoja does get on top to end the round, lands a punch. I think it's extremely close, but I got Erceg for the reasons I said.
Super close, super close. I also agree. I think Erceg definitely puts in some nice damage, and I think he's able to take it, and that's really what it comes down to for me. But yeah, very close. Dave Torelli going that way certainly didn't surprise you because you knew it before the round ended.
I know.
You already messaged me.
Yeah, I know.
Oh man. But honestly, at this point, because of this, you really just can't sit there and complain anymore. Because you're always like, come on, guys, you got it. You couldn't just get it perfect. Now it's on you.
Well, that's usually when we get the perfect prelims, and then we just the rails come off on the main card.
Dan, I knew that we were perfect through the prelims, and I shut my mouth and didn't say anything to you because we weren't communicating. I didn't know that you were out and weren't actually watching.
I was dealing a poker tournament.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on. I was very upset that there was a horse named Mystic Dan that won the Kentucky Derby.
I was super mad that I actually forgot to watch the Kentucky Derby, even though earlier in the day I'd considered betting it, and then I just lost track of time. So I was mad too. I was very mad.
Yeah.
It's because I was watching the opening flyweight fight. Alexandre Costa and whoever. I don't even remember anymore. I should have watched the Kentucky Derby. I almost call it the Pinewood Derby. Earlier in the day, I actually watched in my town. They had something called the Duck Derby. You're familiar with the Duck Derby?
No.
Well, I don't know what it is in other towns, but I can tell you in our town, they take a bunch of rubber ducks.
Oh, okay.
And they build like a little thing out of garbage bags that they tape together down like the length of a hill, like road in town. Snake it around, and then they run essentially a fire hose to like spray them down, and kids watch them and run after them, and they have a great time.
Okay.
I had never seen it before. I didn't know what to expect. It took them a half an hour after they were supposed to have done it to figure out how to do it without it leaking out and completely going all over the place. This was not the first year they've done it, but apparently this was worse than they've done it in the past.
Okay.
But sure enough, it happened. They were able to run it a few times. The kids loved it, yada, yada, yada. And then I completely forgot about the actual Kentucky Derby. So,
all right.
The photo finish. This would have been an amazing one to watch. I would have just been on pins and needles watching this one, and I screwed up. That's on. That's also neither here nor there, right? Because we got some finishes to get back over to UFC.
Real quick on round 3.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
Yes, Erceg had a very nice elbow that cut Pantoja. But there's a lot more of the round to score, people. What? So.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
He got the back after getting struck with that elbow. Yes, high impact, but the rest of the round is Pantoja.
We've seen We've seen rounds with knockdowns that don't necessarily get scored the other way.
Yeah.
And this was not to the same degree. So yeah, I'm with you.
So,
but I don't know. If someone had judged a cage side, then we'd be sitting here, you and I, be wondering maybe that really hurt. I don't know.
Sure.
Anyway,
but finishes.
The finishes on this one. 6 of them in total. Like I said, not a lot of decisions. There were 13 fights in all, so seven decisions, 6 finishes. 4 by TKO, 2 by submission, 3 ended in round 1. What'd you like best?
Well, second best, I liked Anthony Smith's guillotine over Vitor Petrino. That was solid.
That was good. It was very opportunistic.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't think things were necessarily going exactly the way he wanted to that point.
No.
But veteran. Don't give Anthony Smith your neck.
Just don't do it.
And I got to say that probably made at least one American Top Team member very happy.
Sure.
Glittering like a diamond, that guy. What was you said your second favorite?
Yeah.
Is it because I picked the favorite?
Yeah.
The favorite, of course, being Michel Pereira, like we mentioned before. Transitions from that insane backflip, which for all intents and purposes is legal. Gets a guillotine choke. Standing guillotine, right? 54 seconds. By the time, in the brief time between when Pereira taps out and Pereira lets go, because it's not like there was a delay in getting it done. Everything kind of happened by the books, right? He's already gone out.
See, I was a little shocked you picked this one.
Why?
Because Pereira kind of John Jones cheated him.
You know what?
A little bit.
You know what?
So
Pereira got some payback for Shogun.
Okay.
On the night that Shogun gets inducted, or at least announced as the incoming member of the UFC Hall of Fame. So I thought it was, at least a little more poetic there.
Okay.
All
right.
Plus, here's the thing with John Jones. You bring this up. All right, let's go back to John Jones. Let's go back to this one with the Lyoto Machida thing. John Jones at this point is not known to be, a cokehead who is, potentially a wife beater and all of these things allegedly and all this other nasty stuff. He hasn't rammed his car into the car of a pregnant woman. He hasn't done all of these negative things, right? We know him as this squeaky clean, golly gee whiz, hardworking athlete family kid who
stopped the theft in Paterson, New Jersey.
Stopped the theft in Paterson, New Jersey, allegedly. Can you look up the records of that, by the way? Can we look up if that was real?
If they called the police, yeah. Patterson probably would have it.
I would love to know
you
that.
You can make an Oprah request with Patterson.
Oh, God, those are annoying. Anyway, you can tell I've done them before. But that's at that period of time where he was supposed to be, golly gee Willikers, and everybody really liked him, right? And then he just drops Lyoto Machida, a very popular fighter. But then what did he do? What did Greg Jackson say to him?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I don't
this?
remember that part.
I'm pretty sure this is the right fight, right? Go over there and get some fans. Help him up, right? Don't you remember that?
I do remember
Isn't that fight?
Was that John Jones?
I was pretty sure it was that fight.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, go over there and get some fans. Like, come on.
Eh.
It was a crack in the veneer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's all I had to say. But yeah, I didn't mind because again, Poteria, he was all like celebrating over the corpse of Shogun.
Okay.
Like, yo, dude, like, he's retiring, he's a legend. Like, do your thing another time, do it later, do it after your interview or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. Like,
right.
you just ended the dude's career. He's not gonna fight again. So again, full circle, really great to have Shogun in house to be able to see that. Probably a part of him is like, I'm good with that. That is it though for UFC 301, and that's it for us talking about UFC pay-per-view.
That's it.
Yeah, until the MMA retirement ends.
Yes, true.
Mm-hmm. We do have one more non-Apex show ahead of us this weekend. It's UFC St. Louis. I actually neglected to update the start time of this one, so check local listings.
Check your local listings.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you'd think, oh, hey, it's a card in St. Louis. It's not in Apex. Maybe it'll have a really solid headlining fight, and it'll be a great card. It's like, well, you actually got Derek Lewis against Rodrigo Nascimento. Sorry, St. Louis. Tough break.
It's possibly a 7 p.m. start. I mean, Tapology has it 4 p.m.
Eastern time.
4 p.m. Eastern, but I think they start with the prelims as their top clock, so sounds like a 7 p.m.
Sounds like people should check their local listings for details.
Check the TV guide.
Yeah, check the TV guide. Absolutely. Please do. I hope that's a thing still. I think it's a website now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Derek Lewis and Rodrigo Nascimento. When this got announced, I was on my way down to Atlantic City for, I guess, the last time they traveled for a non-pay-per-view, right?
Mm.
And, I don't know that everybody was in love with the Aaron Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot main event, but at least it had some real meaning to it. The winner of that realistically is the number one contender to the flyweight title. What does the winner of this fight say? If Derek Lewis knocks out Rodrigo Nascimento, what does that say for Derek Lewis? And if Rodrigo Nascimento manages to tap out or finish in some way, Derek Lewis, what does that mean? And why are we going to get 5 rounds of this?
That's the biggest. At some point, just because you're setting a precedent, that the main event gets 5 rounds, I mean, we could stop that.
Missouri judges will be assigned to this one, probably in conjunction with some traveling judges. If I recall, Missouri likes to do some of their local judges on the early fights, including sometimes where they'll put all 3 of the local judges on one fight, and then shenanigans will ensue.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking forward to that. This will be a fun one. It'll be a fun one next week. Anyway, as far as back to St. Louis, to get back to St. Louis here, as much as I think the main event is absolutely worthless and will probably waste our time because it's going to go 5 rounds somehow. It's just going to stink. I do like a lot of the fights under it. I actually kind of do. They go more all out. I wouldn't say all out, but they certainly put in more effort to put together decent cards here. I like Joaquin Buckley versus Nursultan Nazarbayev. That was added very late. Buckley is, I believe he's from St. Louis.
Okay.
And I think he was really angling to get on that card. So
okay. I mean, he could have main evented this one.
Probably. Honestly, this is more interesting to me than the other one.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just decide to scrap it late minute. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. I wouldn't mind. Like, what if like one of them just comes down with like, I don't know.
Like, that's the crazy thing is Derek Lewis was like, I don't want a title fight because I don't want 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Like, and that wasn't too long ago.
That's true.
Like, so
I think he just says things though.
Oh, okay.
I think he's kind of one of those guys who just talks. So I don't know that you necessarily take too much stock in what he says. This is a big opportunity for Zhuboyev though, because Buckley just kind of broke into that.
Buckley is turning it on right now. He's surging.
170 pounds. So this is Zhuboyev's chance to steal all that thunder.
Yeah, there's gonna be a train derailment.
I'm looking. I don't know what's gonna happen here. I like the fight. I really do. I like Diego Ferreira against Matusz Rebeski at 155.
Ron Besky.
That's right.
Yes, that's his name is Ron Besky.
Ron Besky.
Yes, I think.
Like Mark O'Madsen.
Yes, and Paul Harris,
the Irishman from Denmark, whose name is actually Madsen.
Yeah.
Paul Harris. Well, look, that is his name. His name is Paul Harris. Who's Amar? Paul Harris. That's who Amar is. He's Paul Harris. Anyway, Alex Caceres, Sean Woodson. This will be a fun one.
I
think this is definitely like fight of the night material.
Yes.
Waldo Cortez Acosta. I was not as thrilled to think about until I realized he was fighting
that's exactly
Robelis de Spain.
That's why I thought was
right.
You put this here for a heavyweight fight. It's like, well, you disrespected a legend. It's a pattern here. Scott doesn't like when you disrespect the legends, and now you got to pay the consequences. And so he's fighting a guy who hasn't fought a total of doesn't have a minute time in the cage.
I think he's more than that, but it's not.
Just looked at. He has a 3-second knockout.
Yes.
Followed by a 4-second knockout.
Yes. Yes.
It's followed by like a 19-second knockout.
This one will go 15 minutes, though. I'm sorry. I'm just telling you. And I'm saying it now because if I'm wrong, hopefully I'm wrong spectacularly, and we end up with something fun. I'm just doing the reverse psychology thing here. Or I get to be right. Ha-ha. Chase Hooper against Slavaklaus Vyacheslav Borshev.
Okay.
That'll be fun.
Is this Chase's first time at 55?
No. I believe his debut was his last fight, or at least in the UFC. I don't remember if he fought there on pre-UFC days.
And one other fight we don't have on here.
What do you have?
Alonzo Menefield and Carlos Olberg.
You know, I thought of putting that on there too. I don't know. Menefield can be fun, and then sometimes it's just not as fun. He's like hit or miss.
They're both surging a little bit.
Yeah.
They got some win streaks.
Olberg interests me, for sure. So, yeah, we'll see. And then I also, I'll name my contested round candidate. I don't think this should be too much of a surprise to anybody. Tabitha Ricci, the baby shark, against Tisha, Don't Call Me Torres Pennington, the wife of the champ at 135.
Everyone's pulling a Joanne Calderwood and changing her last name.
I mean,
what's going on?
It's happened before.
I mean, she was like the pioneer of it.
I don't know that she was.
Well, she's the first one I remember to do it. So.
I was going to say, my wife changed her last name when we got married, which was well before that. And so did my mom, and probably your mom.
Things happen.
I get what you're saying. I know what you're saying. But I think probably in the UFC, that's like one of the most memorable ones. But there's other fighters who were. Ian Machado Gary. No? Am I wrong?
He wasn't before Joanne Wood.
That's true. You're right.
We're done. We're back on Monday with the St. Louis card. And I think we're going to be surprised with a perfect 100% unanimity rate.
Dan, you missed the boat. Stop it. You can't make it happen.
We're going to will it into existence.
You can't make up for your mistake.
We have to try.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Have a good one.